It is Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That is Wade Neely. We are coming to you from the Lee Company Studios. I am in HQ here in Columbia. Wade is at his home in Pulaski. We will be with you here for the next couple of hours discussing. You are not in Pulaski.
We're at the Nashville homestead.
Oh, you're at the. Oh, but that's what happens when you have dual residency like you do. I never know where you're at.
I'm a dual citizen, man. So it's tough out here. And you're back at HQ again, man, which is going to be a busy spot, not just the first couple days, but the rest of the week as well.
Absolutely, yeah. You have both town and country residency.
Dual passports, practically, yeah.
As it were, yeah. Wherever we are, we will be here for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports. So batten down the hatches, stick with us. It's going to be fun. Yeah, it's going to be a fun next couple of days because I will be out and about. I'll be in Chattanooga for Blue Cross Bowl festivities, including the D2A matchup that will be kicking off at about this time in 24 hours between Nashville Christian and Columbia Academy. Wade will be holding it down with an extended 2-hour and 30-minute show beginning at 1:30 tomorrow and on Friday as well. Wade's co-host will be David Wilson from the Robertson County Connection. Joining him, I may be able to chime in a little bit in that first half hour before CA and Nashville Christian.
Then you're going to be pretty busy, man.
Yeah, I'm from right about now on, I'm going to be kind of tied up. So if you call me and I don't answer, don't take it personal. It's strictly business. I will be back in the saddle Friday with Wade for the full 2.5 hours. And then on Monday, we'll be going at 1:30 yet again, recapping the entire weekend, all 9 state championship games from Chattanooga in that first 30 minutes. So be sure and check us out starting at 1:30 for the next 3 days, tomorrow, Friday, and Monday, not Saturday. Monday.
Absolutely. I just left Titans facility a minute ago, and our buddy Josh Corey over there, he is tapped into TSSAA as their distinguished service guy, and he's amped. And I think everybody really is amped. I mentioned it earlier in the week, Mo. This is kind of the showcase. Every state kind of does this, right? When you get your version, whatever it is, of the Blue Cross Bowl, it's kind of your way to show to the rest of the country the best of the best. And I think we got 9 really good games. I know we got some really good teams, and I hope we produce some really good outcomes.
So Josh got the Distinguished Service Award from the TSSAA?
A couple years ago.
Okay.
He's going to be on the headset for a couple games over there, so he's pumped. We got Mr. Football next Tuesday. It's a busy time of the year, and I mean, hey, it is what it is. We get down to this deep in the season, it's kind of the best of the best, right?
It absolutely is, and no less than the best will be bringing it to you. Your television broadcast teams for the BGA Christ Presbyterian game right out of the box at 10 o'clock Central Time tomorrow, wherever you find this on television. It'll be Joe Fisher with the play-by-play and the aforementioned Josh Corey providing color analyst duties. The D2 game between Columbia Academy and Nashville Christian, it'll be Chip Walters, friend of the show, and former MTSU, former Lincoln County championship quarterback, and former NFL quarterback Kelly Holcomb with the color analysis for that one. And then Joe and Josh come back for the nightcap tomorrow night, Baylor and McCallie in Division II 3A. Your 3A championship on Friday, it'll be Chip and Kelly. Your 1A championship on Friday, it's Jeff Hem, Nashville Sounds, play-by-play, among other things, and MTSU color analyst Joe Dubin. They'll be teaming up there. And again, it's Chip and Kelly for the 5A championship game on Friday night between Page and Sevier County. Saturday at 11, the 4A game will be Jeff Hem doing play-by-play and Chad Withrow with color analysis. The 2A game on Saturday will be Will Bowling and Joe Dubin. And the nightcap on Saturday, that Oakland-Houston rematch, will be Jeff Hem and Chad Withrow. So those guys are going to have fun. It's going to be some great football, like you said. Also, friend of the show and fellow Main Street Media employee, Wilson Post sports editor Tommy BRYAN will be doing radio with Greg Arias for the CA Nashville Christian game tomorrow afternoon. We'll get those radio teams here at some point as well, but we have them, but I don't have access to them at this immediate time. So, but we'll get those to you, and we'll try to get some more info on exactly where you can find those, both on TV and on radio, if you're not going to Chattanooga. So,
and it's supposed to warm up a little bit as we trip into the weekend too. So Finley Stadium, hopefully a big crowd, especially that Baylor McCullough game last year. I feel like that sucker was sold out. I don't know that they'll get there quite this year in a repeat, but never say never, right?
Well, I mean, they don't have any excuse. It's not like they got to come from a ways off.
Right.
So, but it's supposed to be sunny and cold, but I don't know that it's supposed to be as cold as it has been the last couple of days. So, a little warmth will help that situation for sure. We have, in the next hour, we'll be joined by Brian D. Fisher of Sports Illustrated, talking a little college football. Great get by my counterpart in Nashville there, Mr. Neely. In the next segment, we will talk local hoops with Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media. We've had some pretty big wins in the area here over the last couple of days, and he'll be with us to talk about some of those. We'll also talk a little NFL, a little Major League Baseball, and a rule change that's being considered that just makes me laugh. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. And again, it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Wade and I will close the show by giving you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. And some of it's even sports related. Looking forward to bringing that here in the final segment. So should be fun. That's what we're looking like here for the next little bit. Let's go ahead and get down to brass tacks with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
To the rundown we go, boys and girls. Speaking of girls basketball scores from last night. Let's kick things off where Rossview defeats BGA 46-29. It was Spring Hill taking care of Battle Creek 67-34. Mo, you were at that game, were you not?
I was at that game. We've got coverage of that game at mainstreetmurray.com.
Jackpot there, as a good win for Spring Hill, bouncing back after they were defeated Monday night. Blackman with an 80-45 win versus Beach last night. It was Brentwood 77, Mount Juliet 35, Cane Ridge on top of Ravenwood 44-24, Centennial 46, Siegel 40, Cheatham County taking care of Montgomery Central 58-22. It was Clarksville Academy over Kenwood 57-36. Lawrence County defeating Columbia last night 63-43, 20-point dub for the Lady Wildcats there. It was Clarksville 42, Creekwood 41 in a squeaker. It was Friendship Christian defeating University School of Nashville last night. Again, that one was 49-26. Giles County girls took care of Fayetteville last night, 63-51. Good Pasture on top of Harpeth Hall, 67-64. Green Hill on top of Oakland, 41-37. It was Portland 37, Hendersonville 35. Hickman County over Fairview, 45-35. Logan County, Kentucky, 62. Joe Burns, 32. John Overton all over Glencliff, 87-11 was your final score last night. Laverne 51, Independence 41. Lebanon defeating Gallatin 72-18. Lewis County on top of Hampshire 64-31. Liberty Creek on top of Harpeth 53-32. And in a tight ball game, it was Richland going on the road and defeating Loretto last night 54-49.
Also, Columbia Academy going on the road, picking up a 39-29 win at Marshall County. It was Ezel Harding 51, Middle Tennessee Christian 41, Grace Christian of Franklin 40, Mount Pleasant 24. Murfreesboro Central with a 43-27 win over Community. It was Page 66, Rockvale 54, Perry County edged Santa Fe 46-44, Eagleville with a 57-52 win over Riverdale, Riverside Christian 45, Zion Christian 24, Springfield with a 3-point win over Greenbrier 45-42. Nolensville defeated Stewart's Creek 60-56. It was Sycamore 53, White House Heritage 40. Trousdale County with a 55-27 win over Merrill Hyde. Station Camp 52, West Creek 16, and White County 92, Wilson Central 36. Looking into boys basketball action from last night, it was Spring Hill with a 62-33 win at Battle Creek. Blackman defeated Beach 57-36. Brentwood with a 73-36 win over Mount Juliet. Clarksville Northwest down Knowledge Academy 60-28. Columbia Central with a 39-37 win over Lawrence County. Clarksville 46, Creekwood 31. I'm sorry. Clarksville 46, Creekwood 37. There we go. Frank Hughes 59, Houston County 51. Franklin with a 63-59 win over Kirkwood. It was University School of Nashville 61, Friendship Christian 44. Giles County with a big win 80-45 over Fayetteville. Green Hill defeated Oakland 66-58. Hendersonville 40, Portland 33. Hickman County 62, Fairview 32. Hillsborough 51, Hume Fogg 40. Joe Burns with a 64-52 win over Logan County, Kentucky. Overton defeated Glencliff 61-27. Independence down Laverne 47-41. Gallatin with a 70-67 win over, 70-61 win over Lebanon. Lewis County 58, Hampshire 26, Liberty Creek 57, Harpeth 35, and Loretto downs Richland 63-51.
Other boys scores from last night. East Nashville on top of Maplewood 69-49. Marshall County turns back Columbia Academy 77-69. It was Ezell Harding 82, Middle Tennessee Christian 56. Grace Christian Franklin takes care of Mount Pleasant 63-53. Page over Rockville last night, 2-point ball game 69-67. No 100-point effort for Rockville last night, Mo. They hard to win when you don't score 100 for these guys, I guess.
Exactly.
73-29, Santa Fe taking care of Perry County. It was Providence Christian defeating Baylor 64-58. Eagleville defeats Riverdale 63-54. Zion Christian 103. Easy to win when you score 103. They knock off Riverside Christian 103-67. Smyrna taking care of McGavock 75-42. Springfield picks up a 77-62 win over Greenbrier. Nolensville 73, Stewart's Creek 61. White House Heritage on top of Sycamore 66-61. Merrill Hyde 71-46 over Trousdale County. Watertown defeating Red Boiling Springs 59-32. West Creek downing Station Camp 73-53. It was Wilson Central defeating White County by 5, 50-45 last night. And White House takes care of Westmoreland 71-53. Other scores from last night in men's college basketball. More on this and more on these games as the show continues. It was Lipscomb 80, Chattanooga 62, and Tennessee all over Syracuse 96-70 was your final in that one. Women's soccer action from last night in the NAI National Tournament. It was UT Southern 3, Aquinas College out of Michigan 1. You can read about that game at PulaskiCitizen.com. Mo, they even made SportsCenter top 10 last night, did UT Southern.
That's impressive.
Number 7. Great goal and a good victory. More on them later. They play again on Thursday in the quarterfinals. And all good things must come to an end. The Grizzlies bow out of the Emirates NBA Cup with a 121-116 defeat to the Mavericks last night. And everybody is disappointed there will be no championship in that regard coming to Memphis this year.
Well, maybe they're saving themselves for the real thing.
We got hope.
Doubleheader high school basketball action tonight. 6 o'clock start for Antioch's Lady Bears at Hume Fogg's Lady Knights. The boys will follow. Girls only game, Lipscomb Academy goes to Hillsborough. That's a 5 o'clock tip there. Women's basketball action today. Already in the books, North Texas with an 83-65 win over Tennessee State. Middle Tennessee State on Education Day over at the Glass House doubled up and then some. Southern Illinois Edwardsville 85-41. Coming at 4 o'clock on the ACC network, you can see Vanderbilt at Miami. At 6 o'clock on ESPN Plus, Belmont is at Allen Arena taking on the Lady Bisons. And at 6:15 on the SEC network, it's Florida State at Tennessee. I guess there's a women's SEC ACC challenge in addition to the guys?
Sounding like it. And,
That's what
you
it
know, if you're
kinda
an
looks like.
SEC fan, you're hoping more of the same.
You're hoping to if you're hoping that the women can kind of replicate the men's performance last night. More on that later. Men's basketball this evening, 6 o'clock start on ESPN Plus. It is Illinois State. The Redbirds coming to the Curb Center, taking on Belmont. At 6:30 on ESPN Plus. Rhodes College out of Memphis. The Lynx coming to the Glass House, taking on Middle Tennessee State. Again, that's 6:30. You can see it on ESPN Plus. And at 8:15, also on the ACC network, it's the Vanderbilt men going up to Blacksburg, taking on the Hokies of Virginia Tech, hoping to replicate the men's outcome in that matchup. I'm sorry, the football team's outcome in that matchup earlier this fall. On the ice, the Preds try to snap a 4-game skid as they travel to Toronto, taking on the Maple Leafs. That's a 6:30 puck drop. You can see it on FanDuel. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill here in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. every day. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. The WNBA getting a little international flavor on its benches. The Connecticut Sun has hired Rachid Meziane, Meziane, as their new head coach. He replaces Stephanie White, who was fired. There was a mutual decision to part ways. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but she is now with the Indiana Fever, and Meziane takes her place. French native Rachid Meziane. I knew you didn't think that was, from around here. But the 44-year-old led Villeneuve d'Ascq to a league title in 2023-24 and to a EuroLeague runner-up finish this past year. So he has been with that French team since 2019, and I think he's also coached in Belgium, among other places. So the Connecticut Sun going international. We are thrilled to welcome Rachid as the new head coach of the Connecticut Sun. He brings a wealth of experience, passion, and a proven track record of success that will help elevate our players and team as a whole. Rachid's dedication and commitment to growing women's basketball internationally and domestically brings a unique perspective both on and off the court that aligns with the values and vision of our organization. We look forward to the future under Rachid's leadership and are excited for the positive impact he will have on our team and community. This is from newly named Connecticut Sun General Manager Morgan. Now, bear in mind, the Connecticut Sun went 28-12 in the regular season, finished second in the Eastern Conference, and advanced to the WNBA semifinals. So, Stephanie White didn't leave for a lack of success or a lack of performance or anything like that. I just think the tea leaves were kind of shaken out that she was, once Indiana made a move with their head coach, that she kind of wanted to get back there. I think she had some family situations that maybe dictated that. I'm not sure that Connecticut didn't get out ahead of it by just saying, you know what, why don't you just go? But at any rate, she's there. Rachid Meziane is the new Connecticut Sun coach, and it'll be interesting to see how the international game translates.
Yeah, coming from France at least. Pretty solid league, right? And you rattled off some of his accomplishments. Got some Euro League success too. So not just domestically. And we've seen some NBA teams. Grizzlies brought over a high-profile assistant coach this year from overseas. I mean, the international influence kind of continues to make waves here in the United States, and for a pretty decent roster already, it'd be kind of interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the WNBA has a lot of eyes on it these days, and so these teams are trying to get it right. They're expanding next year to a 13th team. A lot going on, and I believe with that hire, the Dallas Wings are now, kind of on the clock. I believe they are the only team without a head coach at this point. So stay tuned on that.
Clock is ticking.
The clock is ticking, absolutely. Let's go ahead and take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company Studios, we'll be joined by former Boston Globe sports editor Joe Sullivan, now a teammate at Main Street Media, talking a little local hoops. Stay tuned. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Well, we went all out for you this year, didn't we, little girl? Yep, we got you what you wanted with all the bells and whistles.
A brand new car?
Let's go check it out. Come on. We're here.
Oh my gosh, we're going to the garage. I got a car.
Yep, let's get in here. Let me show you what's going on.
Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Duggar, got your 18 SEER heat pump with the ultraviolet home treatment system.
I cannot believe it. Thank you.
Yes! Give the gift of clean air this year. Merry Christmas from the Busy Bee family.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
He shoots, and he scores!
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company Studios. North and, here in HQ. So, pleased to be joined now by Main Street Media Local Hoops. We called him Guru last week, and he kind of shook that off a little bit. But Local Hoops expert Joe Sullivan, and it's been a pretty good week for the local contingent, has it not, Joe?
It has that. What about like Wingnut or something like that? You can call me like,
Czar is what I was feeling today, Joe.
Yeah. It's
Czar. There we go.
No. Something negative, like.
Something negative.
Yeah.
Nothing
like
negative.
Wingnut or geek or something like that.
Geek.
Yeah,
there we go.
I'm fascinated by your helmets, Mo. There,
Well,
studio. Why is there an Eagles helmet there?
This is an old Independence Eagles helmet. These are all old helmets. Nobody's going to give us a new helmet.
Oh, I see.
So
yeah, that's not an incarnate word helmet there, Joe. So don't get excited if you were thinking that was a FCS playoff reference there.
No, this is an old Independence High School helmet. This is an old Ravenwood helmet. Don't ask me where we got them.
Thank goodness the Eagles didn't sue Independence about using the wings like that. Like that's the University of Cincinnati sued that school, right? You saw that?
Yeah, I did see that. And
using the Bearcats logo.
Yeah, who was it?
It was a school begins with a C because they had the Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's
copied the C.
I think it's Cheatham County Middle School, actually. And
I think that's right.
Not only did they sue them for the logo, but I think they sued them for the nickname. And if it was me, there would be lawyers involved in that one. I mean, I don't know how you can copyright Bearcats. But anyway, we digress.
Thank you for the tour.
Yeah. Hey, we try to answer questions as best we can around here. Like I said, pretty good week for the local contingent. It
was, yes.
Up to last night, actually.
Exactly right. And it's Lipscomb last night with a big win at Chattanooga. Road wins are good to get, and they won fairly easily. I did not see the game, but I checked the box score. They shot very well, and that's an impressive win by that margin on
the road.
So that's consecutive road wins for Lipscomb, and now they have Southeast Missouri on Thursday morning. This is some annual tradition that Lipscomb has where they bring grammar school students in and fill the arena and so there's a lot of screeching children and 11 a.m. game. And I don't know why SEMO agrees to that. I don't know if I would want to, but they are. So 11 a.m. on tomorrow, Lipscomb for an early one. It is, I think that, you're looking back, Mo, but I'm thinking Vanderbilt this week. Can we discuss what they have ahead of them?
Well, starting tonight up in Blacksburg, yeah.
Yeah, right. So I think this is a really crucial week for Vanderbilt in this sense. These are road games against Vanderbilt and TCU. The TCU game's not on campus. It's at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth. It's part of a doubleheader. Texas A&M and Texas Tech are the other half of the doubleheader. But it might as well be a road game, right?
Sure. Once you go that far.
I don't know what the selection committee is thinking, but suddenly these are winnable games because TCU lost to Colorado State. Virginia Tech has a couple of they lost to Jacksonville. So 7-1 Vanderbilt going on could pick up a couple of road games here. If you're of the school of thought that this is a potential NCAA team, this would really help. So these are important. It's an important week for Vanderbilt, and I got to give credit to the CBS Eye on College Basketball podcast with Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish. They were talking about the SEC today, and it's an excellent podcast, by the way. And Vanderbilt is the lowest rated in the KenPom ratings, the lowest rated SEC team, despite being 7-1. So again, these road wins against these two high major teams is going to be very helpful for Vanderbilt. So this is a real important week for Mark Byington in his first year here at Vanderbilt, and I think they can do it. I don't think these are overwhelming. This is not like they're going to Duke and Kansas to pick other teams out. These are games they can win. So nifty scheduling in a way, as it turns out, and hopefully they can capitalize.
They've really kind of raised the bar a little bit in terms of expectations with this start that they've gotten off to.
They really have, and they're exciting. They're fun to watch, and none of it was not true in the past. And before the season, Mo, Wade, we talked about, at least I talked about, wait, I gotta get my correct number of fingers up here. 5 and 2. There it is. I got it. Okay. I'm not good with this camera. 7 bye games for Vanderbilt. And I want them to win them all. And so they haven't lost one yet. And so if they win those 7 bye games, maybe win these 2 on the road, and now let's say they're a 500 team in the SEC, that's debatable, then maybe they are a potential at-large team. So right now, I think Joe Lunardi on ESPN, to me, the best bracketologist. We could argue whether he was the originator. He certainly is the one who popularized it. He has 10 SEC teams in his bracket this week. None of them are Vanderbilt.
He's got 10 SEC teams in.
He does.
Did that change? Because yesterday he had 12 in.
He had 12 in?
Yeah. Because I'm sitting here looking at his tweet from yesterday. Yeah, he had 12 SEC teams in.
No, you're right.
Yesterday.
You're right. I'm sorry, Mo. Thank you for correcting me. It's 12. Yeah.
Okay.
But still no Vandy.
Still.
But you're right. It's 12. My notes are right here, and I don't know why I should have consulted them before I opened my mouth. Of course, I don't know. The SEC has been incredible so far this year. They're in the middle of the SEC ACC challenge, and did you see they played 10 games last night?
9-1.
Pretty good.
9-1 for the SEC. That's right.
Yeah,
and they really are just they are the dominant league.
Hey, real quick, to dovetail on what we're talking about here, Joe, you just described it. It feels like at Vanderbilt, certainly if they win these 2 games and then go 500, I mean, if you're already taking 3/4 of the league, it feels like no matter what happens really with Virginia Tech, no matter what really happens with TCU later in the year, it feels like those are good wins. And it feels like Vanderbilt, that formula you just laid out, kind of seems like it's right there for the taking.
I believe it is. And I think that's the path to getting toward at-large consideration. I'll phrase it that way. And because you think if they were to go 500 in the SEC, which is what? How many? Oh, my God. No, help me. 10-10 would be? They play 20 now? I think
they're playing 20 now? Good Lord.
I think so.
Yeah, so 500 would be 10-10, like you said, yeah.
So, and 10 of those wins a lot of them would be quad 1 wins according to the net rankings that the NCAA uses. They just have to be. And whoever it might be against, but they have to count for a lot. So that's what I think Vandy fans have to hope for. And the problem, when we discussed it before with Vandy going into the SEC, is their lack of size, their lack of rebounding. Drake out-rebounded them by like 15 rebounds and beating them in the finals of the Charleston tournament. So I'm wary about that, if they're going to get crushed on the boards, and maybe they might be too small. But the reverse is they're a tough matchup because they're fast and they're quick and they play fast. So it's they're going to be a matchup problem for other teams too.
Real quick with that, I'm also curious. You threw out 500 in the league. Is that in your mind, Joe, a conservative estimate? Is that optimistic, or maybe is that potentially, who knows? Maybe they finish 3 or 4 games above 500 in league play.
From my viewpoint, it's really optimistic. It really is.
Just getting a feel for kind of where you sit. Because to me, when you say it on its surface, 500 in league, okay, that sounds doable. But we know that obviously they're making up a lot of ground as well.
Yeah, I think it would be on the high end for them. That would be an incredibly successful season if they were able to achieve that. And
when you look across,
it's unlikely. I'll say it's probably
unlikely. When you look across this conference and you see that again, Lunardi's got 12 teams in his field of 68 right now, and you look at those 12 and it's like, can Vanderbilt beat that team, or can Vanderbilt beat That team, and you know, the head to head, and where you're trying to get to 10 wins out of 20, looking at their SEC schedule, it's a challenge to be sure. Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media joining us here on Main Street Sports today, talking a little local hoops. Joe, I can't not ask you about Middle Tennessee State's trip to Birmingham on Sunday.
Did you get to see it, Mo?
I did. Now,
And they were,
you know, we
they were
talked to Chip Walters a little bit about it yesterday. Obviously, he did the play-by-play for it from down there. And one thing that we didn't, I don't think UAB shot it especially well.
No, they did
I've not
But of
looked
course-
at the box score, but still, I would imagine Middle had a little something to do with that from a defensive aspect as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, my Sunday, I went to Tennessee State and UNC Asheville at 1 o'clock and got home and I recorded Middle Tennessee, and then I watched that immediately. So that was, that's my social life, Mo.
I understand.
I
understand.
So I just thought they were terrific. And Mustafa, their big guy, the Egyptian big guy that transferred from TCU, but really had success at Coastal Carolina, he just had a great game. And I shouldn't overlook Justin Porter, the guard, who also he was still the leading scorer in the game. He's the guy who's going to score the points for the most part for them. It was that's a big win at UAB, and again, not unlike Vanderbilt going to Virginia Tech and TCU this week. That's a game. It's like a winnable game on the road. Can you do it? Can you come through? And they did. So now that sets up what I think is going to be, to me, a highly interesting game on Saturday afternoon at the Curb Center. You have Belmont and Middle Tennessee, 2:30 on Saturday at the Curb Center. So and now Belmont at 6-2, and
Middle 6-2, I believe.
Yeah, right. They're both 6-2, and it is Belmont is fascinating to me, Mo and Wade. I got to tell you, not sure. So they have. I wrote this down. So they have 5 players averaging between 10.9 and 12.1 points per game, and even 8 players averaging between 5.4 and 12.1. So the balance is incredible. And their leading scorer is the walk-on, Tyler Lumblade, who's a walk-on, is now their leading scorer. But what I think might be the key for Belmont, emergence of these 2 redshirt freshmen that we really knew nothing about coming in. Drew Sarnowski and Sam Orm. Sarnowski told me on Saturday he's grown 1.5 inches since he got to Belmont. He was 6'8", so now he's 6'9.5", and Orm is 6'9". You're laughing when is
that a real grow, or is that in the program or in the media guide?
No, it's real because he had an injury with his knee, and when he was growing, the 1.5 inches, it affected the recovery. And so he had some problems with the growth spurt that he had last year and recovering from the knee injury. So it was related. So it's real. And look, I'm interviewing him, and of course I'm looking straight up, and I could just say, I asked him, have you measured yourself recently? And he goes, I'm 6'9.5". I said, you are? Yeah. He said, I've grown 1.5 inches in the last year. So it is. I could tell he just seemed taller than what he was listed at. And Orm's legit 6'9". So these 2 came in as, they sat out last year. Absolutely nothing was really expected. Casey kept telling us, they're going to be part of the rotation. But Orm now starts. He's a dangerous 3-point shooter, and he's also a versatile player. He can put the ball on the floor. He leads the team in block shots. And then Sarnowski, I've been people that I talked to about Belmont were waiting for Casey to put Sarnowski in the starting lineup. Orm is already in there. It seems like it's only a matter of time. Brigham Rogers has been the starting big guy, but Sarnowski's outplaying him. Rogers will still play. It's not like he's going to get buried. But I just think the minutes are going to shift as the season goes along. Now, if Casey knew I was saying this, he would just contradict me immediately because that's what he does when I interview. And one of Casey's responses to me is like, "You care more about that than I do, Joe." And so it's, and that's probably the case here too. Or you think more about that than I do. he tries to simplify things, and I like he's the coach. I'm not, and he's a great coach.
I've known Casey for almost 40 years, and probably keeping things simple is probably in his best interest. So yeah, it's good.
But anyway, these two kids, I'm really I see great potential, and if they could develop into keep improving, there might be something there. So Belmont, this game Saturday is going to be terrific. I'm really looking forward to it.
And it's kind of a game that maybe has postseason implications to some degree for both these teams. I mean, this is going to be a good win for one of these teams. You feel like
it is absolutely, but if you mean in terms of at large, I just don't see it getting that far with either of these teams. It's you saw what the committee did to Indiana State last year, so they're not just Belmont beats Middle Tennessee. It's not going to count for much.
Well, not so much necessarily with an at large, but maybe for seeding as an AQ.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yes, it's going to be, especially if Middle Tennessee wins in the Curb Center, that counts for a lot more.
Yeah.
If they were able to do that.
The few times that I've been able to watch Mustafa, Joe, he's obviously an older guy, and I can't remember if it was you or if it was Chip that we kind of talked about. He's got a little bit of an old man game to him, but he really knows how to use his skills and his size and that kind of thing, and he's efficient with it.
Yeah, great body positioning and knows how to place his derriere, as we should say, in the right place to get position. And he's got some touch around the basket. He uses the backboard, which is sort of, we talk about like mid-range jumpers being a lost art. Using the backboard has become a lost art too. Mm-hmm. And he does that very good at angles. He's a good passer, and he's a really interesting personality too. He told me soccer is his first sport. He just, he played basketball because he was tall. He's from Egypt. Mm-hmm. And I guess he wishes he was a soccer player, but he still loves basketball too. He's been a great addition. There was a great pickup.
Yeah. Besides that game on Saturday, what else you got on your radar between now and next Wednesday?
Well, all right. So looking down here, so we talked about Vandy and we have Middle, and Middle has a gimme game against Rhodes this week too. So that doesn't really count. Right. And Belmont starts conference play tonight against Illinois State. It's a team that they're favored. So it just be a good measuring stick to see, as I talked about the development of this team, to see how they handle an Illinois State team who's probably middle of the pack MVC. So we'll see. Right. Again, a lot of interest there. And Lipscomb is really they should take care of SEMO. And then TCU is off. They have exams. TSU, excuse me, is off. I saw them on Sunday. And I'm worried for Penny Collins. I got to be honest. I just this team seems to have talent, but it seems to be a lot of the talent might be duplicative in certain cases. Like they have too many of the same type of players, and I think they lack some more ball handlers. And they're not a great shooting team. They're ranked like 300 plus as in shooting and 3-point shooting. So. I worry about Tennessee State. Now, I'm not sure about the OVC and how good it is yet. I haven't seen enough teams. Interestingly, I noticed this week when I looked at my OVC weekly release that 3 OVC teams are also playing East-West University that TSU played and beat by about 70. So East-West University of Chicago is now the OVC punching bag. Everyone's playing.
They're popular in these parts. There we go.
Cashing some checks.
Yep. Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media talking a little local hoops with us here on Main Street Sports Today. Joe, we talked about the SEC ACC Challenge. We talked about Lenardi's 12 SEC teams. We did not talk about number 3 Tennessee. What is their upside?
Yeah, so number 3, but actually, in the Ken Palm in the net ranking, they're 2. So it's like in the net
I
ranking.
think they're number 1 in net.
Oh, you're right. They're number 1 in net, and Auburn is 2. You're absolutely right. Mo, I'm glad that you're with me to edit me. Yeah, so this is shaping up as another great defensive team, as always, with Rick Barnes. But I think some people are comparing Chaz Lanier, who is the transfer from North Florida and is an excellent shooter. Is he the Dalton Connect? I don't foresee him being Dalton Connect just yet, but he's certainly an excellent offensive player. Rick has patched it together again with transfers and Pete Billy's developing. And plus, they still have the good point guard who's a veteran. So yeah, I Tennessee, we should think in terms of this team develops as, they're good already, but keep improving. They're a Final Four contender, especially with there being such a great defensive team. That should be their goal.
Yeah.
Don't we agree?
Yeah, we do. We do. It's unanimous.
I do agree. Hey, Joe, real quick, I got to ask you, you talked about the 2 big guys for Belmont. How about the 2 big guys from our Wolverines last night? Their nickname is now Area 51 because Vlad Golden wears.
What is that? Where does that come from?
They christened it last night. Vlad Golden wears 50. Danny Wolf wears 1. They call him Area 51. Those 2 combined for 44 points on the road in the win at Wisconsin. Big win versus number 11 last night.
So look, they paired together very well because Golden is more of the inside player.
Yeah.
And Wolf is a guy who can play on the perimeter. He can handle a little bit. You wouldn't want him to go too far with that, but he's an excellent passer. He has good vision, and they both rebound. So the reason they can play together is Wolf can play facing the basket and find Golden and other people. And Golden is a strong inside player. It is, and I think, look, Dusty May, there's a trick to doing that, to have 2 big guys. It played 2 guys of that size together. It's not easy. It's not, and so it looks like he's developing something very formidable there.
Pretty crazy. I didn't have Michigan potentially being ranked ahead of UConn on my bingo card, but when the Huskies dropped 23 spots, Michigan's at least got a chance to make that happen next week.
I think the question is, how did UConn only drop 23 spots?
That's probably a fair question.
I have to credit the Ion College Basketball Podcast for CBS. They said there is a voter on the AP poll who voted UConn 10th this week, which is probably what kept them in the top 25. And so, look, if people are going to be doing that,
give me 5 minutes and I can find out who that is for you, Joe.
Yeah, I wish I was still voting. I mean, long ago I voted, and it was a privilege and fun, and also I devoted time to it. And I don't know if this guy's just stubborn, or I shouldn't assume it's a male. It could be a female, but most likely a male. I think most of the voters, by far the majority are males. He's being stubborn or ignorant, or I don't know.
I will tell you, I've also voted on it, and the mailbox can get a little full if you are stubborn or ignorant, or if people perceive you to be such.
Oh my God.
So yeah.
If you Eric Newman, our good friend at the Arizona Daily Sun, is the gentleman that we speak of that ranked him number 10. So there was a couple other ones. There was a 13, a couple 15s, but yeah, everybody else, the vast majority of the poll, it looks like, had them unranked. Like you said, Eric from out in Arizona is holding them down at number 10 to keep them afloat right now.
So I got a voting story, Mo. Should I tell it? Do we have time?
Go ahead.
So I was voting. I was working in New Jersey at the Asbury Park Press, and I was voting in the AP top 25. And it was the year Seton Hall got very good, and they went to the Final Four. They went to the final game. They lost, some people would say, on a bad call at the end of the game.
Some would say that.
So this is November and December, and I at that time I published my vote every week in the paper, and that was unusual back then. Now you could, like you just looked it up, you really couldn't do that back in those days. And I actually published it and explained my reasonings. I thought it made good material, and I kept Seton Hall out. And there was quite a reaction from readers in New Jersey about leaving Seton Hall out for a certain time. By Christmas time I had them in, but right about this time of year, when I didn't have them in, I got a call from a guy who eventually ran for governor of New Jersey, and he was a state senator there, and he called me to find out why I didn't have Seton Hall in the top 25. And I honestly said to him, don't you have more important things to do? Help our state with some other problem, perhaps traffic or something? I don't know, but that's
wild.
That was the senator called me to lobby.
An email is one thing. A phone call, that's pretty crazy. Here on Wild and Wacky Wednesday, Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, talking a little local hoops. We will see you again next Wednesday, Joe, and we appreciate it.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Great being on.
All right.
Thank you, Joe.
When we continue here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, we will talk a little professional football. Stay tuned when we come back after this.
Do you wanna be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you wanna taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. In our final segment of the day, we will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. But right now, let's talk a little NFL, specifically Professional Football Hall of Fame class of 2025 potential inductees, as it was announced yesterday that the contributor, coach, and senior inductees are down to 5 finalists, including former Green Bay Packers receiver Sterling Sharp. I don't know how many brothers. I guess the Matthews brothers are in the series of. I don't know how many other siblings are in the Hall of Fame, but that was the first thing I thought about when I saw that Sterling Sharp was a finalist out of the seniors, along with Maxie Bond, a linebacker who played from 60 to 70 with the Eagles and Rams, and former offensive tackle Jim Tyrer, who played most of his, played the large majority of his career in the American Football League, actually, and played one season with the then Washington Redskins. He and Bond were teammates with the Redskins in 1974. So those are your three players from the seniors category. Mike Holmgren is your coach finalist. Coached with Green Bay and with Seattle. Won a Super Bowl with the Packers. Went to the Super Bowl with the Seahawks. Won 2 as an assistant with San Francisco. And contributor Ralph Hay, an automobile dealer and the owner of the Canton Bulldogs from 1918 to 1922. He is credited with organizing owners of professional football teams in his dealership showroom and forming an association that became the National Football League. And my question is, how is this guy not already in? But
the OG Buddy Garrity, like you mentioned yesterday.
right down to the car dealership. Yeah. So now these guys have to get 80% of the votes from the full selection committee that will meet ahead of Super Bowl 59 in February. So we'll be keeping tabs on that. But yeah, Sterling Sharp, well deserved, man. Hope he gets over the hump here. 5 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pro selections in 7 seasons. Played from 88 to 94 before he had to retire as a result of a neck injury. 18 touchdown catches in his final season, still the 3rd best season in terms of touchdown receptions by a receiver in NFL history. Nearly 600 catches, more than 8,000 yards, 65 touchdowns career. So,
and about a million scored by me on Tecmo Bowl back in the day. So one of the OG baller receivers.
And I think back to Shannon's acceptance speech when he said, I'm probably the only member in the Hall of Fame who probably wasn't even the best football player in his family. And
that's what Eli's going to say too. You think? Or do you think he goes that far? He's right there on the cusp too this year. Does he go that far on his speech, you think?
I don't think Eli gives Peyton that much credit in person, in public. I don't know. I don't know. That'll be intriguing to watch, though. It'll be a great speech, I'm sure. So look forward to that. Tennessee Titans news goes from bad to worse. Backup safety Julius Wood has been suspended for 6 games. They only have 5 games left, so you can do the math. But for violating the league's policy on performance-enhancing substances. They claimed Wood off waivers after the Cowboys made their final cutdowns in August. He had played 5 defensive snaps, 115 special teams plays, 2 tackles total. So, I'm not sure how great a loss it is, but it is a loss. And again, Julius Wood out for the remainder of the season due to NFL mandated suspension. So there's something to consider.
Yeah, wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't serve that 6th game, if you catch my drift, in a Titans uniform.
Well, he'll serve it. He just may not serve it on the Tennessee Titans sideline.
Right.
Yeah.
Supposed to get a Wuze back here in the next little bit too, so maybe just a quick little plug and play. Plus Hooker's been playing great, but yeah, not a good look for the secondary.
Here's, speaking of not a good look for the secondary, Jamal Adams has signed with Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And, you
I
know,
don't know
this,
if he played or not. I don't know if they're bringing him in. I think they signed him last week. I can't remember if he played on Thanksgiving or not.
he signed to the practice squad, so I'm not sure that he has played. And apparently he's playing at linebacker, which is wild to me. But
Well, I think that if we remember from the preseason, the Titans brought him in because it was kind of the consternation was he's seemingly hell bent on playing safety still. And it's almost like, you know, hey, we got a spot for you. It just may not be where you want to traditionally.
and maybe that's why he left, and maybe he came around to that way of thinking. Although, you know, when the team that's leading the league basically at 11-1 comes calling for you, you're a little more likely to listen to, maybe I am a linebacker. You know, former UT standout Jalen Reeves-Maben is on injured reserve with a neck injury. He's one of 4 linebackers that the Lions have on injured reserve, and yet they're still 11-1. So
that game tomorrow night, them and the Packers, that is going to be a massive game. They're 11-1, but especially with the Eagles, the way they looked versus the Ravens, the Lions, I'm not saying they got to be on alert, but they kind of better be on their P's and Q's here. It's going to be a fun last couple of weeks in the NFC, I think, with all those teams bearing down.
where is that game? That game is in Detroit.
It is going to be, tomorrow night in Detroit. And you still got Minnesota, who's just quietly just sneaking around. I mean, they're technically still above the Packers. But tomorrow night could get really interesting if things shake a certain way.
No doubt. Hour number 1 here on Wild and Wacky Wednesday is in the books for Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios after this break for hour number 2, we'll get into the grab bag, and I'll tell you it'll probably be pretty heavy baseball. So stay tuned after the break.
Nashville's Nutcracker returns to TPAC this December, presented by Nashville Ballet. This holiday season, audiences will journey with Clara and the Nutcracker Prince through Nashville's history and the land of sweets. Tickets at NashvilleBallet.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Second hour of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, starts right now. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Wade stationed in Nashville. I'm here in Columbia at the studio. And Wade, are you familiar with this golden at bat, possibly proposed rule change for Major League Baseball?
Hey, they're trying to do something, right?
They're trying to do something. I'm not sure exactly what.
The only way anybody can beat the Dodgers is if we let somebody get a golden at bat. It was my first thought. So they're trying to do something to bust it up.
Dodgers versus everybody, huh?
Yeah.
I guess I'm just too old school to really even consider the positives that could come out of this. But I think part of baseball is whoever's at bat is at bat. You either pinch hit for them or you let them hit. But, you know, to let somebody bat out of order, basically, because you need them to hit right here with runners at second and third and no out or whatever else it is, and you're down two. It just feels like, you know, we're ginning up the game to kind of like I felt about the pitch clock. It feels like we are considering changes to the game to draw fans that aren't going to watch baseball anyway. I mean, people that don't watch baseball have their reasons for watching it, and I don't know what there is that you can do to reach them, and maybe you just write them off and go on and try to make the game better for those who actually do care about the game. And is that a bad thing?
Yeah, from a fan perspective, and, you know, obviously an old school or baseball purist standpoint, we hate this. Then again, I'm not in charge of trying to make sure the league stays afloat and makes as much money as possible, which, as we know, is the ultimate goal for really any business in the United States, I guess. But so I don't know. I mean, as cool a moment as a lot of this stuff could be, yeah, I'm like you. It's just get off our lawn with some of these changes. We already let you have the runner at second base. We already let you have the pitch clock. We already, like you said, we already did a few of these things, and then this one just seems a little ridiculous. I found it crazy though that, I mean, it does seem like it's picked up some steam among the owners. It's not as if this article just appeared out of nowhere. The fact that it's kind of being kicked around is kind of a little further than I thought it might have gotten to this point.
And I'm looking at an article on The Athletic by Jason Stark, who is probably the most well-equipped baseball journalist to take this on, actually. But the players don't seem to be as against it as I would have expected. So who knows? We might be actually getting ready to see this come into play, maybe in an all-star game or something like that, and go from there. And, you know, I could see it in an all-star game, in a game that didn't matter. I don't know that I want to see it in Game 5 of the World Series in the, you know, top or bottom of the 8th with a team down 2, and they've got a nasty setup guy in there, and all of a sudden, instead of the number 8 hitter, it's the number 4 hitter where you're cashing in your golden at bat right there. I mean,
yeah, or I mean, even in the same article, right? I mean, 2 outs in the 10th inning of the Yankees and Guardians in the ALCS. I mean, it would be very interesting. I'm all for, anything in the exhibition format for sure. I could maybe even be with you, like I said, with the ghost runner rule, have it in the regular season, maybe even to an extent. I don't necessarily mind that, but yeah, seems kind of wild. As cool a moments as it could produce, you're kind of meddling a little too much for my liking when you get into
it feels really, really contrived. So, but the fact that the commissioner was actually willing to discuss it out in public tells you that there's a little something to it, I think.
Oh, yeah, or I mean, PR move. Hey, I'm cool. I'm hip. I'm trying to be Adam Silver. I'm trying to be the people's commish. Maybe I'm toying with this idea, even though deep down, this don't have a snowball's chance. Maybe that's what Manfred is really thinking or going for here.
Yeah, I don't. As much as I would like to think it doesn't have a snowball's chance, though, Wade, I guess, again, the fact that it's being discussed publicly by Manfred I don't think that he would have come out.
That's what I'm saying, right? He gives the illusion that he's the cool, hip commissioner now. Kind of gets a little good grace in that regard, but really deep down, maybe not. Although you open it up in the All-Star game, and then you get that cool moment where who is Yelich or somebody random cranks a home run in a key moment, and everybody's like, man, that would be really cool to see. And then boom, now all of a sudden you've opened Pandora's box.
Yeah.
But here we are. I mean, it's early December. We're talking baseball, so in some regards, mission accomplished.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And we're talking more baseball. We mentioned, I guess, yesterday that the costs for the athletics ballpark in Vegas have gone up by $250 million. And now, with team owner John Fisher on the hook for that, questions are creeping back up regarding whether or not he can actually take that on financially. Looking at an article on Front Office Sports, the exact parameters of how Fisher intends to fund that $1.37 billion is still not clear, as he is still marketing potential minority equity interests in the club. So, this is already a nightmare, it feels like. I mean, they've already left Oakland. They're already set to play the next 3 years in Sacramento, sharing a facility with a AAA team that was already there. They're supposed to move into this ballpark in Vegas in 2028. I say supposed to. But Fisher has an estimated net worth of $3.2 billion. He is an heir to the family that owns the Gap retailers. So, you're talking about potentially half of that being tied up with this new ballpark. It just feels like an ongoing nightmare for a franchise that doesn't deserve the owner they've got.
Yeah, and I mean, my thought is, it kind of almost sounds like the story we talked about a couple months ago about the Cats here in Nashville and their ownership. When you start wanting to get an ownership and people start wanting to see the checks to make sure they're good, you better make sure all your P's and Q's are in order.
Yeah. I mean, when you start messing with folks' money and that kind of thing, things get serious real quick. So, obviously we'll be keeping an eye on this. Speaking of money, Shohei Ohtani and his former interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara, are back in the news. Apparently, Mizuhara took some cards or sold some cards or was trying to sell some of Otani's player cards, his baseball cards. And I guess Otani has been cleared to regain possession of those now. The cards were worth more than $300,000. He's to recover $325,000 in baseball cards. Meanwhile, Mizuhara awaits his sentencing for his various crimes that he was convicted for related to some gambling debts and that kind of thing. Mizuhara purchased the cards online earlier this year with the intent to resell them, but they were fraudulently purchased. I guess he probably bought them with Otani's money, feels like.
Yeah, somebody somewhere is short 325K and is whether it's baseball cards or whatever it's tied up in, they want that money, and somebody's having to pay some sort of way, it sounds like.
Yeah. Mizuhara pleaded guilty in June to bank and tax fraud after stealing nearly $17 million from Otani's accounts to pay off sports gambling debts. Fired in March by the Dodgers, indicted federally in April. Stolen baseball cards, stolen money. Otani gave him a $60,000 check to pay from some dental work. Mizuhara instead used Otani's debit card to pay for the dental work and stuck the $60,000 in his pocket. I mean, this dude's just a bad actor all the way around. So,
Not surprised he's tied up in some more shady dealings, I suppose. Then
no, not at all, not at all. We mentioned the Preds during the rundown. 7-12-6, heading to Toronto tonight. 15-7-2. The Preds have lost their last 4 games now. The last 3 of those being 3-2 overtime losses. I don't know when we throw in the towel on the Preds, but it's got to be getting pretty close, I would think.
it's got to be getting closer. They got to get ready to cancel a U2 trip soon because they got to get something going. And the Leafs just took care. They had a nice win versus the Blackhawks. I saw the other night on Monday. So this is a tall order for Nashville, but I don't know. It's weird, right? I mean, just when you think the backs are against the wall, I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow find a way to grab a point at least on the road tonight.
Well, I mean, the last time we said that things were getting dire, David and I had Ann Kimmel on, and they were getting ready to play Winnipeg, who they beat.
Yeah.
4-1. So, I mean, figure this team out. Good luck. It's wild. Columbia State, as we mentioned, I think yesterday, moved up to number 21 in the National Junior College Division I rankings. They did not even play last week and still managed to move up. So the Chargers are 10-0 overall, 5-0 in conference play, and were scheduled to play at Dyersburg State tonight. That game has been postponed. Dyersburg State has paused its schedule following the November death of one of their players. So they are going to resume their schedule after the holiday break, and this game and the women's game that would have preceded it will both be rescheduled for the back half of the season. But Columbia State now plays at Roane State on Saturday in a doubleheader. But you hate to hear that, and I've not heard a lot of details for publication or for public discussion, but what I have heard sounds really, really tragic regarding this player, Arian Anderson, a freshman out of Memphis. So thoughts with the Dyersburg program, and man, that's tough. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, we will be joined by BRYAN Fischer of Sports Illustrated, talking a little college football. Pretty big deal right now. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
He shoots, and he scores!
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In our final segment, Wade and I will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. But right now, it's pretty wild and wacky in college football, but it's really kind of clearing up a little bit. And we are joined now by Sports Illustrated's BRYAN Fischer to talk a little college football. The last bracket projections were dropped last night, and Miami's not real happy with the way things shook out. BRYAN, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Good to be on with you.
Thank you. Hey, does Miami have a beef?
I think they do. You know, you look at what the Canes have done, and really I think it's probably more of an indictment on kind of where we're at in the bracket and where we're at in the bubble that Miami does have a beef because let's face it, you lose 2 out of the last 3 weeks. Nobody's really going to be crying all that sympathy for the Canes right now, and especially given the way that they led by 3 touchdowns there in the dome against Syracuse, the way they had these opportunities to get over the hump and get into that ACC title game to kind of leave no doubt. I don't know if everybody's really necessarily broken up about it, but when you do look at kind of the highs of the highs and the lows of the lows. This is a team that they are competing against in Alabama that is only judged by those high moments, by that ceiling that the Tide have in those games against Georgia and some of those other SEC foes. And the fact of the matter is, the Miami is not graded that same way by this committee, and I think that's where a lot of the angst and a lot of the worries around the ACC surrounding this team have come. And honestly, kind of why I think they're a little bit miffed right now. When you look at the resumes and when you do put everything up side by side, it's not just Alabama having one extra loss. It's the way that they played in a lot of those games, like against Vanderbilt, like against Oklahoma, that really the folks in Miami are probably pretty miffed about getting included over.
Brian, coming into this season, I mean, is this kind of not what we thought might happen, though? Or kind of, the debate was we see March Madness every year, and everybody argues about teams, 69 through 72, it feels like. How close are these hairs that we're talking about splitting, I guess, between one or two of these bubble teams that really maybe have an argument in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think any time the system, going back to years from now, when we kind of put the system in place, I think everybody did see kind of, the chatter shifting from not in terms of that fourth or fifth team, making the 14 playoff and where that debate line was, but it was going to be down here at the bottom of the bubble, and that has certainly played out, and you are because of the imbalanced conference schedules, and because really I think a lot of people, the committee has been tasked really to evaluate these schedules, and I don't necessarily think they've done a great job. I think a lot of others would kind of chime in and agree with me on that front in terms of evaluating these schedules, how you're playing, because it is difficult. There's no doubt about that. Texas has played a vastly different SEC schedule than the one Georgia has, and in order to make it to Atlanta, the same has been true of in the ACC in terms of what the road Clemson has taken versus what SMU has taken. And that's just life nowadays in these super conferences. And ideally, the committee would be closely examining a lot of these schedules and really parsing out a lot of things. But based on the data points that we've had these last couple of weeks of these committee rankings, they really have kind of narrowed down in terms of number one, the win-loss column. That has been a big driving force, I think, throughout the rankings. If you lose, you're going to drop quite a bit, and that's certainly where Miami has kind of come into the bubble and come into the bubble play. Is they've lost on the wrong time of the year, and they've lost to the wrong type of teams, and it's unfortunate for a lot of these programs, but we always knew that this was always going to be about those kind of 3 or 4 teams kind of right in that we're going to be sitting with 2 or 3 losses, and how the committee was going to evaluate them, and that's certainly shown up in terms of a bubble that essentially is consisting right now just of Miami and Alabama.
Brian Fischer of Sports Illustrated joining us here on Main Street Sports today, talking a little college football. There is it's maybe a polarizing perception, Brian, but there's a perception out there that maybe this committee is protecting the Big Ten to some degree, particularly maybe Ohio State, and being here in the Southeast, where it does just mean more, it's easy to get caught up in that. So I'm going to ask you, as perhaps a bit more objective observer of this whole situation, what are your thoughts about the treatment that the Big Ten Conference has gotten, from the committee here over the past few weeks?
Well, I don't necessarily think that that they've overvalued the Big Ten or protected the league. I think if you've gone through kind of those mock selection committee brackets and gone through the process, it's pretty pretty set in stone in terms of one committee member not really knowing how the next committee member is going to be voting or has voted outside of the chairman, and everything has been kind of siloed off to where it does kind of protect against a lot of that, and I think it's partially a case of the fact that the Big Ten had a pretty solid non-conference, slate. There was some big victories that they scored, and they have been evaluating these teams pretty closely over the last couple of years. And frankly, the fact that the Big Ten schedule probably is even more out of whack than what the SEC teams have played is probably a contributing factor in terms of Penn State, going 11-1 and making it to Indianapolis for the title game. Obviously Oregon's road was not a breeze, but by no means did they face the number of top end high caliber teams that some of the others did. The same could be said certainly of Indiana. But I don't necessarily think it's a case of the SEC or any kind of bias, from the committee to either league. I think the fact of the matter is, the SEC had these opportunities and they kind of blew them. You look at Old Miss, certainly that game at home against Kentucky, a team that, one of your three other wins, a team that went, 4-8 and did not have any other SEC wins other than that one in Oxford. That's just a bad loss. And outside of that, Ole Miss could probably be safely in the field at this point had they won that game. South Carolina, they certainly had their chances. Certainly injuries played a factor in those games against like LSU when Lenora Sellers went down. So a lot of the SEC teams, had their opportunities in front of them. They just didn't take them, and I think, frankly, the Big Ten teams did that. They kind of settled things on the field, and really outside of that loss to Michigan by Ohio State, the Big Ten teams kind of took care of business against especially the middle class and lower class part of their leagues, and I think the committee kind of saw that, recognized that, and certainly valued that.
Brian, as we head into this weekend, I saw this kind of getting floated around. How many Alabama fans will potentially make the trip to Charlotte and cheer on SMU this weekend? Is it as simple? Is this thing pretty much clear cut? I know last night we kind of came into it saying that the rankings were by and large pretty set, but where does SMU sit in your mind? I mean, are they completely out if they somehow drop that game to Clemson this weekend?
Yeah, Ward Manuel, the selection committee chairman, I think he definitely raised a couple of eyebrows in terms of his comments on Tuesday, not just on ESPN, but to the rest of the media at large. In terms of SMU potentially, based on the way that game goes, it's possible they could end up dropping back. I mean, this is frankly they're probably the best opponent that they faced. In the on the conference slate. Obviously, Clemson's ranked 17th and BYU's 18th, so that kind of shows you where the committee thinks those two high-end teams that SMU has faced, you can kind of stack up to them. And so certainly if they get blown off the field, if you kind of go back to the last couple of years when Ohio State would end up blowing off a Big Ten West opponent, something like that, yeah, I think SMU would probably be in trouble. If it's a close loss, if it's I think within a touchdown, I think SMU can still survive. It's probably cleaner for the committee that way, to kind of put SMU there as maybe that last team in, not overly punish them. It would certainly send them on the road in the playoffs versus hosting a game or even getting that first round bye. So I wouldn't say they're safely in, but they've got to be feeling good at the way things have shaken out. But there's no doubt about it. I think for those Alabama fans out there, I don't know if they're going to quite spend the money. I know they might have to go 3 rounds deep here in the playoff in terms of going to a lot of these neutral site games and a lot of these bowl games as well. That they might spend their money to go down to Charlotte, but they're big SMU Mustangs fans, that's for sure, and they're kind of rooting for dear old Dabo to do himself a solid for his old alma mater.
Ha! There you go. Bryan Fischer of Sports Illustrated joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. You can find Bryan on Twitter at Bryan, BRYAN, D Fischer, FISCHER. Bryan, how soon, given the chaos that the 12-team playoff has created in its first year, how soon before we get to 16 and get rid of these first round buys?
Well, I don't know quite not necessarily know about 16. I think the commissioners have, they've been pretty constant. I think I've talked with all four of the Power Four commissioners in the past 2 or 3 weeks, and really they've all kind of said the same thing, and they've been saying the same thing really for the last 6 to 12 months in terms of we want to see how this year shakes out with the system. And the funny thing about that is they do keep saying that, but the fact of the matter is the committee is going to change every year. So the criteria that one committee is going to use versus this year's committee, could change things. And so I would hope that they would at least keep that in the back of their minds. I do think there's probably maybe a little bit more momentum towards moving towards 14 is likely the option. And then you would essentially have kind of those Big Ten SEC championship games probably having a little bit more stakes than they do right now. It looks like obviously all four of those teams are currently in terms of this current year. But in future years, that's definitely being maybe playing for one of those two bye games, and that is going to mean a lot for those coaches, going to mean a lot for those players. In addition to winning the conference, so I think we're probably going to end up seeing some potential look at expansion. Kind of starting in January, starting that process to see how things would play out. Talk with your television partners like ESPN in terms of how much money those two extra games might end up bringing. I would imagine is going to be part of the calculus a little bit as well. So I think the interim step is definitely probably 14, and then probably after this current contract, which basically runs another decade plus or so, depending on how you look at some of the opt outs and ways to get out of that contract. Then maybe you're looking at an expanded field to 16, but probably not anytime soon.
So 14. Is that a play-in, 11 playing 14 and 12 playing 13 to get
Not
into?
Not quite. Essentially, you take the top two, and you kind of have another round, if you will, and you take the top two, and they would have the buys, and so you basically take away those bottom two buys, which frankly that is kind of the crux of the matter this weekend, where there might be some flux in terms of can a Big 12 team certainly overtake Boise State for one of those teams? Obviously, you look at the ACC. If Clemson were to end up winning, I think that would almost automatically bump the Big 12 into one of those buys, and bump the ACC out of one of those buys. So you got to keep in mind that this 12 team system was definitely created and put together by the Power Five back in the day when the Pac-12 was actually a thing. And so there's going to be some tweaks. I think there's I'm pretty confident that there will be some adjustments being made. There has been a lot of talk, certainly in the Big Ten and SEC circles. We saw their big meeting in Nashville a couple of weeks ago when a lot of the ADs came together in terms of maybe prioritizing some of those buys and prioritizing some of those automatic qualifying spots. I would imagine pretty much everything is going to be on the table. So it's going to be as much as we want to try to get used to this new format, it could be changing here in 2 years.
Brian, I want to ask you real quick, the matchups that were released, projections that were released last night. We see Tennessee at Ohio State. We see Arizona State at Penn State, Alabama at Notre Dame, and then Indiana at Georgia. I know things probably will change between now and then, but if things did stay the same, which one of those four matchups is the most compelling to you in your mind?
I think it's got to be Tennessee, Ohio State. I mean, those are the two brand name programs. Obviously, you look at just Tennessee likely coming up to the horseshoe. I mean, that is the definition of kind of what these first round games on campus are going to be. And two teams that have shown highs of a tremendous ceiling throughout the season in terms of what they're capable of putting on the field. Obviously, we've seen what Ohio State in terms of having some of those issues, especially up front along the offensive line. That's something that Tennessee defensive line can definitely take advantage of. I think that would be a great matchup. Certainly talking with a few NFL scouting buddies, that would be one that they would definitely circle on their calendar. But I think it's just going to be great for the sport of college football to see all those games on campus for those first round games. And hopefully, we were talking about changes earlier. If there's anything that I think ideally, a lot of certainly media members, a lot of folks in the people surrounding the sport outside of the bowl system want to do is definitely have more of these games on campus, and I think we're going to see that in terms of some of those matchups that we'll see this year. And Tennessee Ohio State doesn't get much better than that in terms of having some brand name matchups and really some oomph really behind two of those programs that want to be moving towards that national title discussion pretty much every year.
Absolutely. And kind of with that, it wouldn't be a discussion without some hypotheticals as well. There are, even look ahead lines. And Vegas says Tennessee would be a 7.5 point underdog. But the one that's got me intrigued is Notre Dame really potentially a 2.5 point favorite if they were to host Alabama in your mind?
That would be a good question, and I mean, you look at Notre Dame's schedule, and in terms of after that loss to Northern Illinois, which I think we can kind of all agree in retrospect was the craziest result of the season in terms of
Yeah.
what ended up happening. The fact of the matter is they've been blowing out teams. They've been in terms of having the game control, in terms of all the metrics, in terms of what they've done offensively. They've been pretty solid defensively, even outside of this last week against USC, where they kind of got away from them in terms of the defensive performance. But they've just been blowing out teams, and that kind of performance, I think, does kind of lend you to think this is maybe a team that you can take more seriously. Now, I still know if I fully trust Riley Leonard in that offense, but defensively, Notre Dame's going to be in, and frankly, we've seen in the past couple of I guess 6 weeks or so, when Alabama does go on the road, they are a different team. We have seen that in those lows against Oklahoma, against Vanderbilt. They just haven't shown up for these games. Now, I think adding the playoff element, adding that kind of extra oomph to a matchup like that is going to change the calculus a little bit in terms of the approach that coaching staff, those players will end up taking. But it's hard to find a team right now that's been playing better in the really second half of the season than Notre Dame.
That's the ultimate don't trust either team game for me, it feels like. I can see Alabama going in and winning that game easily. I could also see Notre Dame absolutely creaming Alabama just because I don't know what to expect out of the Tide at times this season. So, and again, I'm sure that will change between now and then, but just when I saw those matchups, that's one that jumped out to me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at Alabama. I mean, you talk about having a coach that made it to the national title game last year, having the personnel from Jalen Milroe to that defense. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You let Alabama in this tournament, they are eminently capable of winning it. We've seen that. We've seen the ceiling of Alabama, and frankly, if they show up, I think they've got a good chance, especially considering some of the matchups they might have. Even though they got to play a lot of games on the road or at neutral sites, it's going to be fascinating to see how Kalen DeBoer takes that team into the playoff.
Bryan Fischer of Sports Illustrated joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Bryan, before we let you get away, let's step away from the playoff situation for just a second and kind of take a look at the other end of college football. What coaching search are you most intrigued by right now?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, maybe UCF. I think in North Carolina, kind of pretty even in terms of where those two searches. I think everybody kind of has circled those, not only being kind of two of the four Power Four openings, but I mean those are kind of the market drivers, at the moment in terms of they're attractive to coaches. Obviously, you talk about in this new era of revenue sharing and in terms of resources. Those two programs are well positioned. They're in fertile recruiting grounds. Certainly have the opportunity in the ACC and the Big 12 to where you can win it pretty much every year because of the range of outcomes for a lot of those teams in terms of playing at the high end versus playing at the low end is not that great. So for a lot of people, I think they do look at those kind of two jobs as the market movers right now, and we'll certainly see how things play out. You got two veteran ads too that are piloting these searches. I think they've talked with some good candidates in the past, and it wouldn't surprise me for both to really nail this hire. They kind of have opened up at an opportune time to where they can go out and get their top tier candidates, and I think that's an important thing to note in a market that maybe is not quite moving in terms of the amount of jobs that we thought would come open. It's definitely been a little bit on the light side compared to past cycles. So that allows a North Carolina, a UCF, programs that are not necessarily at the high end of those jobs to kind of land their candidates that they want. And so I think they're going to be the ones that you're really going to kind of keep pace with and see how they play out in these next couple of days here.
Would you please explain to Wade and I, we saw something online yesterday that Jimbo Fisher may be interested in West Virginia. Would you explain to us why Jimbo Fisher would want to do anything other than stay home with $70-something million?
Well, and he's got two ranches, and he has been enjoying the buyout life, from what I've been told. And look, he has always said that he would like to get back into coaching. I think he's kind of made that known, kind of privately and semi-publicly, that he would like to get back into coaching. He's obviously a West Virginia guy. It would make a lot of sense if he did want to get back. This would be a power forward for opening. He would not necessarily have to get paid a whole lot by West Virginia. You can kind of redirect a lot of those resources back into the program. So, on that front, to get into a league that's very winnable, like I said, with the Big 12, it does make a lot of sense. Now, I think there are a lot of other factors surrounding the search that you got to kind of keep in mind. There's also likely Marshall to come open right down the road as well in the state. So it's going to be an interesting search. I think West Virginia, you got to keep an eye on it. And if you're Jimbo Fisher, it does make a lot of sense. I don't think he can get one of those high end openings that he previously would have been considered for. This is kind of about the level of job that he's going to have to end up taking to kind of rehab his image a little bit. Because let's face it, outside of one season at Texas A&M, it was not a great tenure there in College Station, and certainly at the end there in Tallahassee at Florida State, it was not pointed in the right direction in terms of where that program was and where that program was traveling. And you kind of saw that in those early couple of years for Mike Norvell. So it makes a lot of sense for Jimbo Fisher if this is something that he wants to pursue. I would caution it a little bit if West Virginia is really going to go down this road in terms of what things look like, what the structure is like, and ultimately how much support Jimbo's going to get around him if they ultimately want to go down this road.
You mentioned that there might be an opening in Marshall. Do you feel like Charles Huff is going to Southern Miss?
There's definitely been quite a bit of scuttlebutt around there, and look, it's just a weird situation in terms of everything that's happened there at Marshall. I mean, you just don't get many coaches to, number one, coach out their initial contract, number one, and number two, to end up making it to the Sun Belt title game. I mean, you have a chance to essentially have a coach win a conference title and walk away on his own volition, and just a interesting dynamic there, certainly with the school and some of the politics involved surrounding everything going on at the university and the athletic department. So weird situation. Wouldn't be surprising at all. He's going to be an in-demand candidate. I think not only for head coaching jobs, but I'm sure he's gathered quite a bit of interest to join some other staffs, given his nature as a top-notch recruiter, as a top-notch head coach, as a top-notch person to join a lot of these other Power Four staffs as a potential coordinator as well. So he's going to have options. I think there's no doubt about it, and stuff that he's going to have to end up weighing, after this weekend, and ultimately what happens with Marshall after that.
Bryan Fischer of Sports Illustrated joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Bryan, we appreciate you taking some time with us. Enjoy these ball games this weekend, and we hope to get you back on again here soon.
Absolutely, anytime.
Awesome. Thank you,
Bryan.
When we continue here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Wade and I will be bringing you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. So stay tuned when we come back to the Lee Company studios after this.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new, handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
It's the final segment of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, which means it's time for Wild and Wacky Wednesday, as Wade and I bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. We're going to start with a sports story. And when I tell you it lives up to the billing. First of all, Wade, do you remember the graduate assistant from South Carolina a few years ago, Zeb Noland, who got pressed back into duty as a starting quarterback because the quarterback room got so thin for the Gamecocks? I think it might have been in Beamer's first season.
That sounds familiar, but I am familiar a little more with this more recent story, which is crazy.
Well, it is absolutely crazy. So Southern Illinois got thin in its quarterback room this year and pressed a graduate assistant into duty by the name of Michael Lindauer. Had transferred, well, again, had played at Cincinnati or gone to Cincinnati, but had thrown 27 passes in his career for the Bearcats, thought he was done, goes into coaching at Southern Illinois. Again, they have some injuries, makes his first career start on senior day a couple of weeks ago. All he does is complete 20 of 33 passes for 283 yards, a school record 7 touchdowns in a 62-0 win against Murray State. 7 touchdowns. He was named the Missouri Valley Conference Offensive Player of the Week for that performance. And now he's heading back to the coaching offices as he'll resume his GA role. But with all due respect to Paul Harvey, here's the rest of the story. Zeb Noland, who, kind of paved the way for Lindauer in this role back in 2021.
Yeah.
When he led South Carolina to, among other things, a 21-20 win over Vanderbilt in 2021. After he got done with his reprieve as a player, he resumed coaching. Guess who the quarterback's coach is at Murray State?
Don't tell. Oh, no. Not Zeb.
Zeb Noland.
He
in the flesh.
Patience, young Padawan. He showed him everything he needed right there.
There we go. It's pretty amazing. And now you know the rest of the story. Yeah. Zeb Noland sat and watched another former graduate assistant take off his polo, put on his shoulder pads, and put together a record-setting performance against his team. So yeah, big. It's wild and wacky.
Yeah, I mean that's NCAA football, road to glory, stuff of legend, and then not even road to glory, but you put it on varsity difficulty. You just dial the difficulty all the way down. Hey, let me dust this off and just go out and throw 7 TDs.
7.
No big deal.
Yeah, I've thrown 27 passes in my career. I'm going to complete 20 passes in one game, and 7 of them are going to go for 6. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like he was sitting around during the week and was going Uncle Rico. I could throw a football over the mountains. And then he just said, let me just go out and show you. I'll throw 7 TDs. Unbelievable.
I told you. It's Brucey's time to shine. Out in Utah, Wade, Utah's one of your favorite states. Did you see any wrong way drivers while you were out there?
I didn't see any. That's what Brian Fischer's at too. We should have got his input on this. I didn't see any, and I don't think, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think I was complicit in any of this as well.
Okay, well, I'm glad you didn't see any. I'm glad you weren't one, because Utah police are ramming wrong-way drivers. Highway Patrol officer they are training troopers to drive into wrong-way drivers. Since 2018, Utah law enforcement has intentionally steered into 12 vehicles driving the wrong way on a Utah freeway. In all the cases, law enforcement used the front of their patrol cars to try to stop the errant driver, usually by striking the oncoming car on a front corner. Peace officers have been injured. One driver has died. And the tactics have not been vetted or anywhere by any national association or accrediting agency. This is just something that Utah has taken on. But they say that they're trying to prevent the wrong way drivers from colliding with unsuspecting motorists. These collisions, those type collisions, have resulted in about 30 fatalities in the last 5 years, according to the Utah Department of Transportation. So.
No, I didn't see that, and I love that. Yeah, we're reading this story, and you know, they're luckily it's quick to point out, hey, this has not been vetted by anybody else. This is kind of just our own science out here. And the freeway, man. I mean, that's one of those states. You know, it's like the 75 or 80 mile an hour speed limit out there too. So that makes me even a little more nervous.
UHP developed what it calls the wrong way driver intercept technique. When troopers are notified of a wrong way driver, the training calls for them to close the freeway on-ramps so no more cars can enter. Then they stop traffic from traveling toward the errant driver. If a trooper deems it safe, he or she travels the wrong way too until the trooper can get behind the driver, strike the car on a rear quarter panel, and force it off the road. If the safer options are feasible, he or she is authorized to steer into the oncoming car. I'm sorry, if the trooper doesn't think these safer options are feasible, they're authorized to steer into the oncoming car. Assistant professor of criminology at Arkansas State says this is a huge liability of the officer's safety, also worried about the safety of the innocent victims in the vehicle they're crashing into. So, I don't know.
I love this too. A spokesman from the Idaho State Police said they would be interested in learning more about this.
Yeah. There was a death last year. A 26-year-old mother of 3 who appeared intoxicated, had a friend in the car with her, said she suffered a broken leg and a brain injury. The trooper also suffered a broken leg. Goodness gracious. I just don't know, man. In July, a county deputy steered into a driver traveling the wrong way. Upon investigating the crash, it appeared the driver was having a diabetic episode. So,
no,
high risk, high reward, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely. Golly, I mean, I know you're taking precautions. That's kind of a last resort, but oof, that no, did not see that. Thank goodness was not a part of that.
Yeah. Be careful in Utah. Told you it was wild and wacky. Let's see if we can get one more in here before we go out. 3,000 fake Gibson guitars coming into the country from Asia were seized at the Los Angeles port by Customs and Border Protection agents. If these guitars had been authentic, they would have been worth $18 million. So they were not. Gibsons are made, obviously, in Nashville. Little known fact, they're also made in Bozeman, Montana, excuse me. But the seizure was announced yesterday. Don't know when they were taken or where they came from, but this is a result in a $250,000 fine and 10 years in prison. So if you're making fake,
You said came from Asia and end up in LA and worth $18 million.
had they been authentic.
Otani interpreter. Keep your eyes peeled.
Oh, I like the way you connect those dots. That's Wild and Wacky Wednesday. That is Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Be sure, 5 o'clock, Southern Middle Tennessee High School football show. Check it out. We get you ready for CA and Nashville Christian on there. Check Wade out at 1:30 tomorrow. We'll see y'all.